Hello, my name is Diabo Sito, and thank you so much for watching SABC News. This is SME on Point, and today we're coming to you from the Podcast and Music Festival out in Empress Palace in Eguruleni here in Johannesburg. We are out of the studio today. We thought that we'd dive into the world of podcasting and how it would benefit you as an entrepreneur. And know that a lot of small business owners who follow us on at SME on Point on Facebook, you have your podcast channels. The podcast industry is growing in leaps and bounds. And here in South Africa in particular, it is growing immensely. I don't have all the details, but I am with someone that has all the details about how you can monetize your podcast channel, how you can even take your entrepreneurship content and start a podcast channel. I'm with Nicholas Regisford. He's the managing director for podcast and the Podcast and Music Festival. Well done on this amazing event, and welcome to SME on Point. Thank you so much for your time. Tell me about your love for podcasting before we even go far.
I'm building a love for podcasting, but I've got a big love for education. And in the podcast world, there's room for education. So one of the things that I can say about podcasting is that it's allowing people to talk. It's allowing people to express themselves. It's allowing people to come out. It's allowing conversations to happen, which is going back to I suppose the word storytelling is flowing around everywhere. But I think we must focus on African tradition and understand that, storytelling and sharing is a solid pillar in culture. Yeah. Doesn't matter what tribe you are, and doesn't matter which part of the continent you're from. So my contribution to this industry and the growing industry is that I feel that there's a space to guide people, direct them, and help them win. And that links back to my overall purpose, which is developing other people.
Yeah, I love the issue about developing other people, particularly because we have been so fortunate to be granted permission by Castell. They have just launched their new mobile podcast studio on wheels. So if you find them on social media, you can find out how you can rent their services. As you remember, we always give a shout out to amazing businesses that help us here on SME on Point to grow. Nicholas, let's go to the issue with regards to how entrepreneurs can cement their views, cement what they're about using podcasts. Are we even using it to our full potential before we even go to the monetization of it?
So the potential is endless, and I think first thing you need to decide is why you're doing it. So this podcast, you spent time telling me why we do this, so that I'm aligned with what you're doing, so that I can contribute to it positively.
Precisely.
So you treat your viewers in the same way. You treat your community in the same way. You stand up and you say, I'm presenting myself as an expert at subject matter X, right?
Yeah.
That's one option. So let's say you're an expert at braiding hair, right? You can start a podcast on braiding hair if your business is selling hair and braiding hair, right?
Yep.
And then you use it in your marketing mix. You can use it in a way to be able to inform people, build an audience that you can sell product to. That's one example. You also have to decide if you want to build an audience that you want to sell products to.
All right.
So there's two options. Either you are selling yourself as the expert, or you're building an audience to sell other people's products to.
Let's talk about some of the most notable ones that you have witnessed, particularly here in South Africa. We know the very famous ones, of course, and the issue of sponsorship and marketing and bringing corporates on board, because that's also a very important element. While you are building your small business, how can you bring bigger businesses to be part of your journey?
Interesting, good question. And linking that back to podcasting. Podcasting is like the music industry. The music industry was founded on labels, right? So you would join a record label. That record label would distribute your work, provide a space for you, handle the admin, and give you some money, right? Long, short,
yeah.
Right? The podcast game has got a collection of people who are running networks. So Cliff Central is and was a podcast network. It's now called the Podcast Party and the Real Network. African Podcast Network, which is run by John Savage, is a network of podcasters.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you look at a network, what's the opportunity? You come in as a content producer, you join a network that's linked to a programmatic advertising software, and that network does the selling on your behalf. That's one way that you can get in the ring and you can participate and you can contribute. The other way is to do it yourself and to go to the level where you're going out and shopping to, for example, right now we're all using a product, I think, to keep our lips dry.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to look for one. I can't find it. Right.
I'm sure we'll find
so
it,
we've got a product to keep our lips dry.
Yeah.
Right. So you can approach the maker of that product and say to them, I've got a 10-part series about lip maintenance.
Right.
And that's
You're
another...
dishing out nuggets here, huh? Love it.
Thank you. And that's another way that you can go to market with an offering. So I've got this information, but I've also got a whole stack of people that have got this information and are willing to share it. And that's why I brought them here for this meeting.
Right, right.
Right now, what's going on outside is like 100 years of experience on the stage, teaching people with very little experience about music.
Yeah. What I also observed, and I'm hoping that our viewers will be able to see on the visuals, is the number of podcasters who are here.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's amazing.
Isn't
so
it
you
lovely?
have a lot of people on stage, and then you have people pushing their own hustles. Tell me about how you got those people under one roof, and what's the main aim at the end of this weekend?
Okay, so the people that you find here that are exhibiting, they responded to some advertising. And they responded with advertising saying, we want to be there. So what we did as a team was bring them in at no cost. We got the sponsor to pay for them to be here, which is how the ecosystem could and I believe should work.
Yeah.
I don't believe content creators should be forced to pay money to come and exhibit their content and get knowledge at a place like this and pick up clients and network. I don't believe that that's how it should be, so I'm going to advocate for that it should be free. One of the things is access. So in the podcasting industry is about easy access.
Yeah.
So our platforms need to be easy access.
Let's talk about the nuts and bolts. Right. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm selling hair as the example that you made earlier on, but I need equipment. I cannot afford Castell. I can't afford their services just yet, because I'm just starting out, but I feel that I have enough content. I have become an expert in my field. Where do I source the material? What do I do when I don't know where to go? I don't know what kind of mic to choose, what kind of recording equipment to use.
Access to equipment should never really be a problem, because if you've got a phone, you can make a podcast. Don't let technology and beautiful suites like where we're sitting be a place that stops you. Don't let it stop you in your growth. If you've got something to do, record a podcast today by holding a phone between you and me and record the audio. Right? Use an audio editor and put that thing online. Create some artwork using Canva. All right? And that's your first podcast. And go from there. So for me, at the end of the day, let's not get overwhelmed by technology and equipment. There's plenty of technology out there. You will be able to one day afford a Rodecaster. But why must you start with a Rodecaster? Why can't you just start with what you've got? If you've got enough passion inside of you, the reality of the situation is that you can start today, right now, with the phone you've got. Yeah. Because you've got some data or you've got some free Wi-Fi and you can record a conversation, edit it and load it up. So learn the technical skills. If you're on your own, learn how to do it yourself first. Don't rely on a team. Just get started with your story and your passion. Whether your business is in gardening, whether your business is in plumbing, even if you're a plumber and you're doing that type of work where you go to people's houses, right, and you fix stuff. There's ways you can do stuff to promote yourself using the internet and content creation. So my response is, let's not get overwhelmed. There is no quick, short fix to buying good equipment.
Yeah, before I let you go, the reality of living in South Africa is that you could be in the urban areas and you could also be in the rural areas where connectivity has not been quite advanced or entrenched. How does one get over that? You are living in the remote parts of Eastern Cape, for instance, and connectivity is not the best, yet you want to hop onto the podcast train. How do you then navigate that? What kind of advice can you share with us?
Move your mindset out of I can't and I don't and I won't and I don't have, and move it to I'm going to go find it. She and he who dare win. So get out of your comfort zone and don't complain. get up and move and go look for connection. You should be able to get the connection at your local library. If you can't get it at your local library, go to the closest town. If you can't get it at the closest town, go to the closest city. If you can't get it at the closest city, then what you're going to do, I don't know. But in those three, you'll be able to find a shop that gives you free Wi-Fi, or a restaurant, or a library, or a community center.
Nicholas, thank you so much for your time. We've really learned a lot. I've been chatting to Nicholas Suretisford. He's the director of the SA Podcast and Music Festival. This is where we are at today. It is a buzz of activity. It is the nicest vibe. You know, I really hope that next year you'll be able to come and attend something like this and get inspired. But as we always say, please support small businesses in your communities. If you know someone that has just started a podcast, please tag us on our @SME on Point page on Facebook. Let us follow that person and see what their content is all about. And as I always say, let's let those rands and cents circulate, and that's goodbye from us here on SME on Point.